We could. Liz, I'll turn to you now. The new book, Devil's Bargain, suggesting Steve Bannon is the person who got Donald Trump elected. There's been reports now that President Trump didn't like that Bannon was getting the credit. Do you think it was a factor in his ouster here?
I don't think so. I think, there's rumors like that all the time, but clearly Bannon was someone that Trump could work very well together and got the campaign on track along with Kellyanne Conway, and were very successful in doing so. I think the major thing that led to his ousting was not only John Kelly coming in and trying to rein in the White House and have a tighter ship there, but it was also his comments on North Korea. You cannot make comments that undermines the president's and the entire defense apparatus's stance on North Korea, bringing fire and fury, and then say there's actually no military solution here. That really undermined the foreign policy, and I think that's what ultimately led to this decision and him leaving.
Niger, is this the team that exists right now, John Kelly et al., is this the team that can bring tax reform across the finish line, that can change health care as we know it and put it on firmer footing, that can even just get a budget? I mean, at the end of the day, we've got some really important deadlines in front of us.
And this is where, some of the movement that General Kelly has executed, I think, is healthy, because obviously at this point in time, this is not election season, it's leading season and getting legislation passed and getting some victories on the board. So I think in that sense, these moves that are being made could be very, very helpful. I hope our Republican friends in the House and the Senate are going to be a little bit more cooperative now than they have been, chirping at the president on Charlottesville, which I think, quite frankly, has been a little nonsensical.
I want to stay with this theme for just a second to you, Jessica, which is that, you brought up Congress before and how they need to take the ball now and move it across the finish line, but are they up to the task? It seems to me, I don't know if they were kowtowing to Trump or not, but they haven't been able to bring themselves together to get anything done at all. Can we trust them with these basic missions? Raise the debt ceiling, get a budget together, the things that have to be done for the country to move forward.
I'm not sure. I think the Republicans have been a disappointment, not only to those of us on the left, but also to their own party. You see that in the approval ratings and the scathing criticisms of Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan. My point about the kowtowing to President Trump is that I believe that they advanced certain pieces of legislation, health care, for instance, something that he threw his weight behind when there were massive concerns from people on the ground there. And I understand John McCain was a shock vote against it, but there were people throughout the process saying, hey there, wait a minute, let's talk about what's going on with Medicaid. Let's talk about pre-existing conditions. And if they listen to their members as opposed to the president, I think they have a much higher likelihood of getting something that can pass. They have the numbers, but they need to also have a more bipartisan. Well, but they have them if they can. I mean, nothing's going to make Rand Paul and Susan Collins probably happy.
Okay. But let's get Liz in here for a last word on this, because I look at this and one of the previous guests said, hey, the markets are higher because they think everything's calming down. To me, it looks like everything's erupting. Which is correct?
I think there's still hope in the markets that when Congress comes back from August recess, that they can get their act together and follow through on tax reform, because they think that's a much easier goal to get accomplished than health care. And I agree. I think the Republicans, especially in the Senate, have been a complete disappointment in not following through on their promises to their voters. I mean, take Trump out of it. It has nothing to do with Trump. It has everything to do with what they've promised for the last 7 or 8 years to repeal Obamacare, and they weren't able to do it. But I think the markets are still optimistic in that tax reform hasn't failed yet. There's still a chance.
Just give it a few more minutes.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'm not too optimistic either, but I think there still is some optimism there for the markets.
Well, we got a long way to go.